So how hard do you train when you're not on the bike then? Because I guess some of your training would be testing the bike, very sort of specific stuff, but how much other training do you do?
Most of my training is in the winter period.
Yeah.
And to be honest, during the season, I try to take things back a notch, because that's something that as a motorcycle racer we have to realise that there's so much more going on for us in the mental side, with what's going on with adrenaline and cortisol and all the rest. During the season, you have to just kind of take over. So I spend the winter months really just getting a great base level of fitness. So the bicycle is the best thing for that. I enjoy running during the season, but in the off season you can get 15 to 20 hour weeks on the bicycle, and that is something that just sticks by you during the year. This year, whenever I got injured in May, for example, I was more than 3 months off the bicycle, but I was able to kind of keep things on a good level just from running, and that was because of the hard work that I did in the winter. And unfortunately, that's all part of our game. We get injured quite often,
Yeah.
so you have to do the groundwork to make sure that if something like that happens, that your fitness is going to stick by you.
Do you, for that reason, do you complement any of the aerobic training you do with strength work? Do you do any gym work and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I do, but honestly, less and less as the years go on, because the bike is becoming more and more cramped. We're becoming like a crab on the bike. We're all knees and elbows.
Yeah.
The smaller the position, the more aero, and the more you can move your body back and forwards. So flexibility is becoming more and more important.
Yeah.
6-7 years ago, I was strong as an ox in the gym, but on the bike I felt so weak. So that's something that I wish somebody had told me years ago, was to understand that whenever you get strong, keep flexibility with it, because I was just focusing on numbers and repetitions in the gym. And once I got on the bike, I realised that that didn't count for much.
Yeah, yeah. It's quite a fine balance, isn't it? I guess because most of your training has to be doing something which is not specifically related to the actual sport that matters. I remember. I know that you trained with him, but I remember working with Mark Webber many years ago, and he got so into his fitness training at one point that he almost said that it started to have a negative effect on his racing, because he was afraid to take days off and was training too much in the season. I mean, you've already mentioned that you perhaps train harder in the off season, and the season is about recovering after races. Is there anything else that you've learned through the benefit of experience over the years that you were doing differently now to what you were doing when you were younger?
I would say the main thing is sleep. That's something I've focused more on recently, and that's one thing as an athlete we're not very good at. And it's unfortunate, because in an ideal world it would be the guy that works the hardest reaps the rewards, but that's not the case. It's often the guy that does his work, puts his feet up on the couch and focuses on sleep that is going to benefit most, and that's something that's so tough in this day and age. It seemed to be laziness to rest and sleep, but I really don't listen to what people say anymore. I listen to my body, and if I feel tired, I sleep. I try and keep on top of that as much as anything now. For me, running is such a good gauge on a bicycle, because terrain changes. It's always hard to gauge where you're at, but running, I always notice my pace will vary depending on sleep. If I want to improve my average pace per kilometre, I'll spend an extra hour in bed, and strangely enough, you run faster. So it's clear for me. I'd say rest is 50% of what I do during the racing season now. I try, and whenever I travel to flyaway races like Australia, America, Argentina, I try and lie in my bed as much as possible now. In the past, I might have flown through the night, arrived, for example, in Argentina at like 8 o'clock in the morning, got the rental car, got to the hotel, got some breakfast, and went to the gym. And that was completely counterintuitive now when I look at it, because it was pointless. What I was doing, there was no real benefit in it. And now I understand getting to your bed is key. Making sure that you're hydrated after a long haul flight, getting that night's rest, and waking up feeling fresh, and then go to the gym.
Yeah, so you get the recovery in first. So yeah, because we work with a lot of athletes where when travel is frequent, we advise them often to treat the long haul flight like a hard training session, in the way that you've got to respect that it's going to take a lot out of you. So yeah, sounds like you've learnt that the hard way.
Yeah, definitely. When I was with Red Bull 10 years ago, I think I learnt more there than anywhere else because it sounded strange at the time because you thought, yeah, I'm just on a flight, I'm reading a book or doing whatever. And they taught me that for us as athletes, we travel so much that that's half the battle, is making sure that you're fit enough to travel and not get ill, not get sick.
Yeah.
On the bike, okay, it's physical, but a good base level of fitness, and you're going to get by. But if you're not recovering and you're not making sure that you're well hydrated and you're not on top of your nutrition, then at the end of a race, you're going to feel fatigued. And I say I learned that 10 years ago, but still I've been making mistakes up until a couple of years ago because of the mentality of, oh, you're always trying to push yourself, always trying to improve, but hopefully now I can kind of keep on top of it. But it's a hard thing as an athlete. You've got to make sure and rest and recover, and a lot of us don't do that.
Yeah, I think it's part of the mentality, isn't it? Hard work gets you a long way, but it needs to be balanced. And I know as an athlete I used to overtrain a lot, and I wish, looking back now, to a large extent I learnt those lessons earlier, but it's part of what we're, I guess, trying to do with some of the work we do with athletes now outside of hydration, is try and give them an appreciation of those other factors, because hydration affects recovery, but recovery is a much bigger deal, and like you said, sleep and all those other things factor in.
Yeah, definitely. And sometimes you wake up and you feel super fresh, and that's the benefits of jet lag. Sometimes you can wake up at 4:30 and think, yeah, I'm going to kill dead things today.
Yeah.
And you'll feel great until midday, and then you'll just go off the edge of a cliff.
Yeah.
And that's what you've got to remember. You've got to keep that in mind, because sometimes you can have a coffee and feel great again, and you completely forget how you felt a few hours before. So I always try and take a 24-hour period and remember how I felt at every stage, because sometimes you can be in bed at night and you don't feel tired and you think, oh, that means I don't need sleep. But you got to remember that if you felt knackered earlier in the day, then there's a good chance that you are lacking in sleep. For me, as a motorcycle racer, I do know that at the end of races, sometimes I've had a week off training and go to a race event, and that's the best I've felt in the last few laps of the race, because I've got mental clarity. There's oxygen going to my brain, and I'm able to make decisions that I wouldn't have been able to in periods when I thought I was super fit, but I was really overtrained. Yeah. So it is really something that's so strange. You don't understand all of what's going on inside your body. I think unfortunately you don't often know until you get into a race scenario, and by then it's too late.